ready for some matches, huh?
We're here for a show. We're going to give you a show. Let's start the Schmoedown.
Questions are going to be asked to the field. Questions come from different categories of movie trivia. 8 questions. They are each worth 1 point. Moulin Rouge!
Jack Bauer, 24.
Following question comes to you from Jeremy Hasty.
Jeremy, each competitor is going to get a spin at the wheel. Movie release dates.
Wow. The answer is Remember the Titan.
Captain Niet. Yeah.
Jim Whitworth has been eliminated.
It's Eliza Dushku.
2 point steal for
Isaac
Ross.
Sark.
Y'all ain't ready. Later, the whole damn city.
Planes, trains, and automobiles.
Good guess, but no.
Your winner, William Viviani, has cleared the table. Champion of the world once again.
Schmoedown, as we know, we got a little bit of a WWE flavor to it.
It's my turn. Your season is done. Your career is done.
Whether they friends or they enemies, gonna have to miss me, dog. Y'all ain't ready. Later, the whole damn city. Nah. Get up, I know y'all hear me. Show love when I'm in your city.
Then let's get ready to Schmoedown.
Absolutely right.
Kind of changing gears a little bit. I forgot my question.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stan Janisch, and the host of the Schmoedown Rundown, Brad Gilmore.
What's up, movie trivia Schmoedown fans? Welcome to the Schmoedown Rundown, the official after show for the movie trivia Schmoedown. My name is Brad Gilmore, but you might know me by another name. You might know me as The Vote. Hashtag best of all time. Hashtag Brad's opinions true. Hashtag boat life. Hashtag I'm on a boat. Hashtag my girlfriend calls me Dreamboat. And guess what? I call her the float because she floats my boat. But we also got somebody over there in Chicago, Illinois. He goes by the Tank. He goes by stats. He goes by numbers. I call him Frank Jinga Janisch. Frank, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. It's warm in Chicago now. It's like 80 something, wearing shorts, and it's actually a comfortable, it's semi-comfortable 80 something degrees here, unlike Houston, because in Houston, you see my hair? It's just flattened out. Over here, it does what it needs to do. But out there, I might as well just shave it off.
You know, we got the little humidity over here.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little work. But also, I got to give a shout out to my super producer, Mr. Christopher Clark. Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Brad. I'm in a bit of a rush tonight. I'm going to see a Godzilla King of the Monsters. So hopefully it's gonna be good. Yeah, let's rock this sucker, bud. Let's rock it to the end of time.
I gotta ask you, Chris, how was Kimaha, also known as the Kima Boardwalk in
my gosh,
Houston?
Kimaha.
The boardwalk was much smaller than me and Jacoby thought. There was only like 4 rides. We didn't really go on anything. We just walked around for a bit and headed back to the hotel. I think when we left was the last time we saw you. So yeah, it was fine. It wasn't really sadly anything special, but it was a beautiful scenery. Houston was a great adventure.
Well, there you go. I'm glad I asked. Now, we have a lot to get to the show today. Unexpected entry. Kristian Harloff will be joining us on the show, the chairman of the league. We're going to have a long-form interview with Kristian Harloff regarding everything going on in the movie trivia Schmoedown. And then, spoiler alert, one half of the brand-new team champions, Jeff Snyder, will be on the show as well to talk about his tremendous
he had stuff to say.
Oh, you know he had some stuff to say. Talk about his tremendous victory over the Shire Wolves with the Odd Couple, new team champions in the league, and Frank and I are going to break that down too. Also, we're going to talk about Brendan Meyer versus Video Drew, which was a fun match that I think people need to give some love to because I think we're seeing a star in the making with the kid. And Video Drew, great stuff there too. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, I have to bring up one thing. Because no, it's not what we talked about before we went on the air, Frank. You know, I'm not going to bring it up on the air. Well, actually, I will bring it up on the air.
Do you want to do this right now?
I do want to do this right now,
okay.
Frank.
All right,
William Bibiani has the craziest review to Aladdin I will ever read in my life. I do not understand his review whatsoever.
Well, he's a critic.
But you know what? Why is the discrepancy so crazy on that movie? Because the audience is 94%. That's a verified score on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics, 56%. It doesn't make sense to me. That's too big of a gap. I was looking to be thoroughly entertained by a story that I loved as a youth, and I was. And Naomi Scott, brother, Hall of Famer right there. But hey, I'm not here to talk about that. What I was actually going to bring up was I have this lovely copy of a book right here.
It's
called Why We Love Star Wars. Why We Love Star Wars.
Oh, look at that.
You have it too. The
it.
great moments that built a galaxy. I cannot talk.
What are you
Why
doing
We Love
there?
Star Wars. The great moments that built the galaxy far, far away by Ken Napsok. I said Star Wars and I said Galaxy.
Congratulations. You made it
Galaxy
through
and
it.
Star Wars. It's like Gilmore. I was thinking about my own name.
Yeah.
We have a copy of this book that we're going to give away to one of the great viewers and listeners of the Schmoedown Rundown. We asked you last week to come up with the best acronym for BOAT. The BOAT.
That's
which
right.
is me, Brad Gilmore, the best of all time. And there's a couple of them. There's some great entries. So I just want to read a couple of them here, and then I'm going to tell you who the winner was. But Royale with Cheese said, hashtag bring out a tiger, which I enjoyed. Dave Morris said, boat is Brad owns a tie. That's actually a fact. I own a couple of them. We also have Brad organized a tea party from Will Green, which I liked. Brad of all trades from Eva 2405. From my man Haskell 420, he said best of all Texans, which I loved all of these.
I mean, that's a pretty good one.
I'm going to be honest with you. I loved all of these. Bring on the trolls because Brad can take them was from Yusan Tran. Chase Geyer said bringing on amazing trivia. Mason Cox said something I can't say on the air.
I love. Is that the one that I talked about earlier?
The one.
The bust
Stephen
out.
Holman had a lot of them. But he almost, and I'm sorry, Stephen, you didn't win, but you almost did. He had a lot of them. Beating out all takers. Ben owns Andrew in Texas. Brad offers analytic truths.
That was the one I
Break
liked.
open a tab. Booker owns all takers, and then my favorite of his suggestions: Bibiani, Obama, and Draco Tapia.
Actually, that's pretty good. That is pretty good.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think that's his middle name, but yeah.
There was a lot of them, but I will tell you the winner of
here
the
we
free book. The Star Wars, Why We Love Star Wars, is, drumroll please, put this in post, Chris, drumroll please.
I'm doing the drum roll, man.
John Mariano wins it with here's his acronym for BOAT, and I picked it because it made me laugh and genuinely giggle, and it makes no sense, but the acronym for BOAT is Brad's Orange Apple Tacos. That is the winner of the
unbelievable.
So, sir, please DM us your address, and we will get you your book. Thank you for your support of the BOAT and the Schmoedown Rundown. Brad's Orange Apple Tacos is the winner. Hey, man, you didn't have to be creative.
I dare you to make that. You need to. That's true. This was like kind of reminded me of like Cards Against Humanity, where it's like whichever one tickles your fancies, that's the one.
Yeah,
there's no rhyme or reason
funny
to it. Yeah.
It's like Whose Line Anyway, where the points don't matter. It's
Yeah.
just I don't care. Just make me laugh. So shout out to all the people who participated in that. We'll get you that book, man. Just DM me your mailing address. We'll get it out to you. But we got to talk about a match here real quick before we get into our interview with Kristian Harloff. We got to talk about Brendan Meyer versus Video Drew, the kid. Brendan Meyer, who has been really someone who had a good debut match against Paul Aoyama.
Yeah.
Even though in a loss, sometimes you still look good, and Brendan Meyer looked good. He had a great run at the free-for-all, a phenomenal run at the free-for-all that really won him over with the crowd. Now he's going up against another newcomer, Video Drew, who I didn't know much about, but I got to say, instantly fell in love with her personality. Obviously, I'm the BOAT, and the BOAT likes when other people refer to themselves in the third person. And Video Drew did plenty of that, and the BOAT appreciated it. Yeah. Well, I don't see that, but
Yeah.
But the BOAT appreciated Video Drew. What did you think overall of this match, Frank Janisch? I had a lot of fun with the match.
I did too, and Video Drew is like the Wednesday Addams of the Schmoedown. I can't like what is going on here? And as the match kept on going, I wanted to see what else she would do, what else she would say. Also at the same time figuring out how much does she know about movies, and is her being in here just kind of like a gimmick because she has a good character? But no, I mean she actually pulled out some pretty good answers, and she had a decent debut for someone who's not well versed in the Schmoedown per se, I guess you could say, as a rookie, because you never really know when you get someone in here who's never been in it, how they're gonna do. But I thought for a first time match, she answered some fun around questions. She had a decent first round. Her second round was actually very strategic in the way she did use multiple choice on every question. And so there's a lot of good stuff there on top of just the awkwardness. Kind of also reminded me a little bit of Aubrey Plaza's awkwardness mixed with Wednesday Addams. There's a lot going on there that I was just like, what is this person? Right. So all of that, it made for actually a pretty good, fun, entertaining match.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and you know what? It was competitive in some circles. I mean, there was a lot of questions there that Brendan Meyer, there was I think what was Robert Zemeckis' first.
He was close on that one. He was close.
I said we had the same guess. Like I thought it was Used Cars is what
that was his second. That was his second one.
Movie. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought it was. So there was some shakiness there from Brendan Meyer, but overall I thought that he showed that he can really play in this league, and so Video Drew. I want to see more of him. But
his perfect first round. He got a perfect first. I mean, coming right off that spectacular run at Free For All and follows it up with a perfect first round, it's like, come on, the kid's arrived.
I think this is why I like the tandem of Brendan Meyer and William Bibbiani. You have two people who obviously are very good at first rounds and free for alls. And Brendan Meyer was able to pull out a victory here. What did you think, though, of the scene that we saw where Brendan Meyer was talking to Bibbiani, and then he was like, "Hey, Mr. Beast, we're going to see you at the Dave Matthews concert later, right?" Mr. Beast?
Right. I kind of want to know how that Dave Matthews concert went, if Bibbiani, in fact, showed up, or it was just a coincidence they were both going, and Brendan Meyer found out. Brendan Meyer is interesting, because I feel, and here, I think maybe at first I thought Bibbiani was just being nice and doesn't really want to do much with Brendan. He's a good kid. They had a good run. They shared the stage for a while at Free For All. He's a good kid. But then I started thinking, well, what if Bibbiani is actually playing hard to get here? He's trying to play it cool. In fact, he would love to kind of build their friendship more in the Schmoedown, and perhaps result in a team up. A lot of people out there are talking, when you see these scenes, look, they don't normally show us stuff just for fun. It happens, but usually, like 90% of the time, there's a purpose we're seeing this happen. But I would go back to those Andrew Guy scenes early on. He's always talking about, he killed the goat. He beat Dan Morel. We were like, well, what's that going to amount to? And then we saw what happened at a live event.
Right.
I think this is the similar path with these Bibbiani and Brendan Meyer scenes. We've had a few of them now, 3 or 4 of them right now, and we're seeing them for a reason. We keep going back. I mean, sure, we keep going back to them because they're funny and they're great. They're some of the best stuff we've seen in these scenes, but there's got to be a larger purpose. Whether it results in a team up or not, I don't know, but there's got to be a larger purpose, and I'm hooked. I was hooked before, but I'm all in on this, whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the end game is going to be, but I am really invested in Brendan Meyer and William Bibbiani. Even though he has a crazy review to Aladdin, I am still in on William Bibbiani. I mean, literally the craziest review. You got to go read this. I mean, it's nuts. If you've seen the movie, you like the movie, you don't understand this review. It's crazy. But I also liked how Kristian Harloff, I saw Bibbiani put this on Twitter, he called him the Mankind of the movie Trivia Schmoedown, which is hilarious because it is spot on. But I want to tell a story. So for those of you who don't know, and Chris, put a picture right here of Mankind from the early WWF days. But he was a guy, Mick Foley. He wrestled as Cactus Jack for a long time at WCW. And Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard wanted to bring him into the WWE, right? They were trying to get him over to WWF. They're trying to get him over to WWF. Vince was just like, Vince McMahon was like, I don't see it. I don't want it. And then finally, Jim Ross was like, Vince, I'm telling you, this guy will be money for us. Like, just bring him in. And then Vince like, damn it. Okay. But you're going to have to cover up his face. I can't stand to look at it. And that's why Mankind came in with the mask.
And Vince really sounds like that, right?
That's how he sounds. Yeah,
exactly,
that's his voice. God damn it. Put a mask on him. Have you now, for movie fans out there, there's a great wrestling documentary from the late 90s called Beyond the Mat. It was in theaters, theatrical debut. It has The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mick Foley in it. And there's an iconic scene of Vince McMahon. He's meeting this guy named Darren Drozdov, who went on to become a character named Droz. But Darren Drozdov, and I'm going to wrap this up, but Darren Drozdov, he had a skill to projectile vomit on cue. At any time, he could just regurgitate on anybody.
It's on his resume.
So Vince was like, this is great. We're going to call you Puke. So that was going to be his wrestling name. And he was like, just imagine you walk out there and there's the ref. And this scene is on YouTube. Go just type in He's Gonna Puke by Vince McMahon.
Oh, wow.
And you'll see. And Vince will go, you got to. And then he tried to get Darren Drozdov to vomit in his office. He's like, I got to see this.
Oh, my God.
And then he puts a trash can in front of him. And he's like, you got to get sick? Huh? You got to get sick? Huh? Oh, my God. He's gonna puke. He's gonna puke. He's gonna puke. And he's doing this on camera. It's one of the craziest things you'll ever see a billionaire do ever. Go look up Vince McMahon. He's gonna puke on YouTube. You have to see this video. But you know what? Speaking of a guy who was there right around the time this documentary is being finished up, someone who worked for Vince McMahon, someone who worked around Mick Foley and The Rock, let's go to him right now. He is the chairman of the board of the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. Ladies and gentlemen, on the line joining us here is Kristian Harloff. And the chairman of the board joins us right now on the phone from wherever the hell he is right now, Kristian Harloff. Kristian, how are you, man?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to be on the phone with the boat, Frank Janisch.
Yeah.
The boat is in the building. Man, Kristian, it was a crazy week in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown, but I got a text from you before you're rolling sound saying you wanted to call in. I feel like you have a couple things on your mind, but the first thing I got to ask you about, I have to ask you about the match that we saw this week, the championship match. I mean, the Shire Wolves 6-0 on the run of being one of the greatest teams of all time, derailed by Jeff Snyder and Mark Andreyko. What were your thoughts on that match?
It's funny because I was talking to Frank about it too. I think it was, and I think Snyder said it best in the post interview. It was a very defensive battle, and you could tell both teams were off a little bit. I thought that Clark Wolf and Andreyko were the two stronger players in this match, and I think Rachel and Snyder will probably tell you the same thing. But they just kept striking, and it's like if someone missed, then someone capitalized. If someone capitalized, if someone missed a question, just a one-pointer and someone else stole, it was tied in the first, tied in the second, tied in the third. It just kept going back and forth. In third round, the Shire Wolves off by one or whatever it was. But it was just a scrap. It was just one of those title matches you just want to see because those are four of the best players. And even though Snyder might have been off his game a little bit, I think it's fair to say, and I think Frank, you can you might not argue with me on this. I think he's making a pretty good run with Cushing and Morel for Player of the Year right now.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, this puts them at this 3-0 on the year, right? This would be their third win. Yep. This is their third win. So, and he's been playing. And then being the second or the first and only player to win the team title with two different teams. I mean, that's a feat no one's ever done. So he owns that, and that's a big leg up on everybody. Even though Rachel has two belts or had two belts, he's making a strong case, and if he can hold on in Collision, I mean his case will grow even stronger. And then let's see what he does for the rest of the year in singles.
Well, that's the magic trick because the thing is, there's so much history to be had at Collision now. Because if you look at the main event. If the odd couple defend, Snyder's going to be. This will be like his, I think, seventh title defense.
Yeah,
in two reigns for teams, and And so, they'll be starting a brand new run. But if the Shire Wolves win, then they will be the first team to ever repeat and win the title twice, because Snyder obviously did it with two different teams. So that would be interesting. But the other thing is Rachel Cushing would be the second person ever to be double belted twice.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and then a month later, she's got to hang on to it, hopefully at San Diego Comic-Con against whoever.
How great was that opening scene, by the way?
You know what? I really did like that. It was it was interesting, and I mean, I think the scenes are getting more and more.
Well, the production on them are now through the roof. But I did love. Yeah. I mean, Kaiser's so good, and the interaction with him and Kalinowski was great. I mean, Chance Ellison knew when to pick his spot there. He came in there at the end, but when Kaiser just looked over, at Kevin and said, smash him. I was like, oh yeah, we're in for a treat. I feel like that's going to be. Now, Kristian, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that has all the makings of being one of the matches of the year between Mike Kalinowski and Kevin Smets.
Well, the stats will certainly prove that's incoming, and I think Frank will probably back me up on that. It's you look at how accurate Smets has been, and then it's hard to argue what Kalinowski has done in the last year in the Inner Geekdom division. So that I as a fan of this thing, that's the ultimate fan matchup, because this is a kid 3-0 coming in, literally smashing people everywhere he goes. He hasn't had a real challenge yet, and there's no shot that he knocks out Mike Kalinowski. There's just no shot.
Can't see it.
No, there's just no shot. And I think that Mike Kalinowski, I've known him for coming up to 20 years now, and I know how dedicated he is. And I've seen one of the things that he's told me that he does. At one point, every player goes through this, and we had a conversation at one point, and, Mike was mad about something or another, and he and I have a very good relationship, and we sat down and we spoke, and he said to me at one point, he's like, my girlfriend said to me at one point, she's like, well, if it's stressing me out, why don't you quit? He goes, I can't. I love it too much. And he's got that fire. He's got that fire. He wants his title back, and it's always got him that, he's, and kind of breaking story here for a little bit is the fact that if you follow this thing well enough, that it was not Mike's ultimate decision that he wanted to challenge for the title and put himself in there.
Right.
Inman wasn't available. Somebody else wasn't available. That was the best shot for it. And we did it. And Mike did it, and he won the belt. But the fans always gave him crap for it. Said he didn't deserve it. Said he didn't, he put himself in that position. So now he's more determined than ever to prove that he's going to beat Smets, and then he's going to take out the person he's never been able to take out before in Rachel Cushing. So the stories are fantastic on both sides, and the accuracy is just Mike's put himself. He's like Tony Stark in that cave trying to figure out how to beat this guy. How to put it all together. And I think this is going to be a scary Mike Kalinowski that we see on the 22nd.
It just seems like Inner Geekdom might have a majority of the top matches when the whole year is done, because when you look at Kalinowski and Rachel earlier in the year, I mean, that was a match.
The Throwdown's still top of the list right now.
I think so. I mean, it's incredible, and you're going to get Kalinowski and Smets, which I assume might be an all-timer, and then whoever and then the winner faces Rachel. That's going to be another incredible match. So Inner Geekdom, I mean, yes, people can argue it's very top-heavy, but man, how can you argue with what we're getting? It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be really incredible. This collision, I think, it could be the best one that we've ever had, because it's going to be live. There's only going to be 4 matches this year, but it'll be worth it because it's going to be, like I said, live streamed. And once it's pieced out, if you don't watch the live stream, it'll play as 2 videos. And video 1's going to be the Manager Bowl. And then you get the main event would be for that video is Smets versus Kalinowski. And then video 2 would be the number 1 contender for singles. And then leading into that would be the main event of Shire Wolves versus Odd Couple 2. I mean, it's almost like a spectacular card.
It really is. It's lining up to be. Now, you're talking about how Mike Kalinowski, he says, I just want that title back. And I talked to Kevin Smets when here at the live event in Houston. He was even asking me, he's like, hey, man, do you think I can pull this off against Mike? The players are so invested. And it takes me to this Shire Wolves an odd couple match, to see Mark Andreyko kind of break down in the post-match interview and openly weep. And you even saw Jeff Snyder after he won. There was a camera shot of him standing at the desk looking up at the sky like, oh, man, I can't believe I pulled this off. Are you sometimes surprised that this game that started out kind of a silly kind of game that you would play on the Schmoes Nose Show, are you still surprised that people are so emotionally invested in it?
Not anymore. I've been yelled at too many times from the players to realize that how invested they are. And Mark Andreyko would tell you he's probably 65% of that. But but I love Mark Andreyko, and one of the reasons I love him so much is because he's so invested and because he cares about it so much. And I always root for the best matches, and I love the Shire Wolves. The Shire Wolves were one of my favorite teams and two of my favorite players that I've ever walked through from what they've done for this league. But it's hard not to feel great for both of the guys, because I know how much the title meant to Snyder when he had it, and how, it was, he was one of the most invested players ever when he started. He started out and he wanted to play everybody. I would see him at screenings and he's watching matches all the time. And like any sport, any sport, Brad, you know this, whether it could be wrestling or boxing or UFC, if the champ's on top for too long and they don't have anything to really fight for anymore, they get bored, they get complacent. And that's what happened with Snyder. After he lost the straps to Above the Line, he was burnt out, and he was in a place to where you saw that what happened with that Bibbiani match. He was just checked out. So I think that Anarchy brought new life to Snyder, and Snyder's the most dangerous he's ever been right now. And that's because they're so emotionally invested in it. And it was heartwarming to watch that message with Andreyko. And it's so funny because no matter how hard I try to turn Andreyko heel, he just can't do it.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to.
I mean, but when he runs his mouth off, though, I mean, it's some of the best stuff any heel has ever put into this league. So it's always a treat when you hear him when he's really impassioned about something. Boy, you don't want to be at the other end of that, because it'd be a bad.
No, you're not wrong, and I think that I'll retract in the fact that it just depends on who he plays. I think it's one of the endearing things about the Odd Couple is that where Snyder is a heel, and Snyder's going to, talk smack about anybody that gets in front of him. Doesn't matter who it is. And Andreyko will be there on the counterpart. I think what makes them such a fun team is because they're so different. And Snyder will say something that Andreyko won't really like, but he likes playing with them, and same thing. And then you get Roxy to balance it off. And Roxy has been I think Roxy has changed them completely, and they both acknowledge it. That's why people are so silly that don't understand what managers do. Yeah. Roxy Stryer might be one of the best managers we've ever had in this league. I remember one of the first times watching her during Anarchy, and she's pacing back and forth, and she would talk to the players, she would talk to Snyder and Andreyko, tell them to calm down, tell them to use strategy, pay attention to their JTE rules. She knows the game. She's a student of the game, and I think that the three of them have just proven that this is a team that we thought, in Anarchy we said that's a good team, but it turned out to be a great team.
No, obviously they're more than a great team. They're the champions right now. So what are you gonna say, Frank?
And when Andreyko was talking about Roxy in his post-match interview, that's the type of things. Those are the type of things that Andreyko, Clark, and Rachel were saying about Emma Fyfe when they were going together. And now for Mark to pretty much be echoing the same thing when speaking about Roxy, I think should be a big clue as to just how integral that Roxy has been for that team. And because at least I regard Emma Fyfe during that last year run one of the greatest years for a manager ever, and everyone saw all the work they were put in. Whether you saw some buzz or we call it practice, whatever, online on Twitter, it seems like Roxy has taken that mold and put her own spin on it, and it's gotten the Odd Couple into a mindset that they could win the title, and then they did.
Right. No, it's true, and I think that she's been crucial to them.
Absolutely. Now, I wanted to ask you this. We saw what happened, obviously, at the Houston event. We were all there live in person. It went live last week on the YouTube channel. Andrew Guy defeated by Ben Bateman. Now, after this week's match, though, after the championship match, an interesting interaction between the aforementioned Roxy Stryer and Ben Bateman. I won't really ask too many details on where that story's going, but where is Ben Bateman going now that he's put Andrew Guy in his past? Where do you see Ben Bateman going, Kristian?
I mean, I think that this will come no shock to you guys. Ben Bateman is focused on a title. I get text messages from Ben Bateman every day, but I would say if there's 10 text messages a day, 1 or 2 of them is him telling me how he's going to win either 1 or 2 belts by the end of the year. He is determined. He wants those belts. He's been studying for those belts. It doesn't matter which one he gets. He wants a championship. So his journey right now is he faces the winner of Kalinowski and the Machine, which goes back to another Kalinowski conversation. That's the big question, I guess, that we didn't talk about with the Smets thing, is the fact that Mike's playing so many matches. He's got 3 big matches coming up, and can he? Is it going to make him hungry? Is it going to make him sharp, or is it going to burn him out? And is it going to make him tired? But he's going to face the Machine, who's been playing. See, here's the thing about Janine the Machine. Janine the Machine is really being. She's like sneaky good. Yeah. Because if you watch, and Frank, maybe the stats back this up. I would imagine that they do. Every match she plays, she gets better and better and better. I think that's because you don't hear her screaming out on Twitter and talking about how much she studies and her new programming and everything that she does and her study tactics. You don't hear her doing it. It doesn't mean she's not.
Absolutely. I think Janine the Machine is like, to me, she's always kind of been like a Robert Horry, right? Back in the NBA. Robert Horry, not a player that gets talked about enough, not a player that you normally associate with big matches or, big wins. But then after he calls it a career, you look down, he's got 7 rings. He's got more than Michael Jordan. She's that kind of player. Like you said, she's sneaky good. But to go to your Kalinowski point, I don't think he's going to be burned out. I think when you're a champion like Kalinowski has been and you can play at a championship level, you want to get in rhythm. You want to play more matches because that gets you at your pace. We saw what happened with the Golden State Warriors during Game 1 this week. They took a 9-day layoff, and they looked lazy out there. They looked out of sync. They didn't look like the Golden State Warriors that we know. You have to have repetitions. You have to have reps when you're a champion. I think this is going to play out well for Mike Kalinowski, Kristian.
Well, he's a great player. I mean, and I don't just mean inner geekdom player. He knows how to play the game, and he's good at the mental warfare part of it, and he studies and he tries, and he's another one that wants to succeed. And Mike comes from a place that where Mike's first run, if you go back, I mean, he came in when he entered the league in the against Ashley Robinson. He kind of came in as people didn't know what he was. Was he a good guy? Was he was dressed like John Wick? Is he an anti-hero? What is he? And I don't think Mike really knew at that point. And then he went through the run to where he was going to be this kind of Mike is in real life, a good guy, and talking about just he was Captain America, and this is the society we live in. And again, I think I always say it that we're in the attitude era of the Schmoedown. Fans didn't like the Captain America thing. They were like boring, vanilla. Who cares? Yeah. Mike popped big when he turned his back on his team and took over and started corruption, and because it also brought out that killer instinct, hence the killer, right? It brought it out of him, and I think that the fans have responded to that because he delivered on his promise of being a great player.
I think at the mention of Kalinowski going heel, I got to give a little bit of a shout out to All the Bells podcast when they did that alternate timeline with Kalinowski. That kind of convinced you that he could do it, Kristian?
100%. I try to give them as much credit as possible anytime. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I was in my car and they did it was after the spectacular, and I had to put everything on the table here. I had a very different storyline of where Kalinowski and Brienne were going to go, and what was going to happen in that whole thing. It was supposed to be something just completely different. But then I heard that podcast and I heard the alternate reality of what if Mike Kalinowski was a heel. And I think on their show he was running the Lions Den from behind the scenes or something. Right. But they had him call in, and he cut this promo as a heel. And I said, that's the best work he's done yet. I'm like, that's incredible. And I saw him and I was like, dude, your heel stuff was great. And I said, would you ever want to go heel? And he's like, yes, absolutely. And so, we came up with the idea, and it kind of worked out because he had just gone through that triple threat match, and he was legit. Real heat. He was legit. You guys were there.
He literally walked out. Yeah.
Dude, he stormed off the set, and we didn't talk. He didn't call anybody for 3 weeks. So we didn't hear from him. He takes he takes it serious. He takes it real serious. And but I think that's the match that reshaped him. I think that was his best match.
Yeah, because that was a pretty
that was the lowest of lows.
Yeah, it was, especially in a number one contenders match of all things.
Yeah, it was definitely the lowest of lows from Mike Kalinowski, but he's pulled it off, and we'll see what happens between him and Kevin Smets. I think that's going to be one of the most anticipated matches. But also, you mentioned about Collision. You mentioned the Manager Bowl. The Manager Bowl / Commissioner Bowl has kind of been a recurring theme at these big events in the movie trivia Schmoedown, but it seems to me there's always something on the line. Will there be anything on the line in this year's Manager Bowl?
Yes, something pretty big, but you should find out this Monday, what the stakes are going to be, and Monday if you're a patron. If you're not, and if you're not pitching, you'll find out on Thursday. But the stakes will be pretty high, and the other thing is that you'll find out exactly who is in it.
Okay.
Okay.
Because there's a few managers now. There's a lot of managers that are around the league these days.
There are, and it's going to be very interesting. I was just going to say that it might not be exactly what you think it's going to be, or who you think it's going to be, because it's going to be this could be a way for maybe new managers to shine or something else to happen. So it's, but I say stay tuned. Here's the thing that's been funny, whether it's in the Manager Bowl or the Commissioner Bowl, everyone always thinks that's a throwaway match, but they turn out to be some of the best matches we've ever had.
Yeah. I mean, Commissioner Bowl at the Spectacular last year was incredible, and then the Manager Bowl the year prior was fun. I mean, you don't expect these things. You're right. I think sometimes maybe the tempered expectations are what makes them so enjoyable as matches. But that's going to be a huge match at the Collision. I believe live streams are available right now for purchase for the Collision. So make sure you go and do that, because I cannot wait for this event. But let's talk about Dan Moreau real quick. Dan Moreau has some interesting, matches ahead of him, depending on how some of these tournaments break out. Who do you think that we're going to see Dan go up against next, Kristian, if you had to put money on it?
So the way that the number one contender match is going to work, and I talked about it on live, and we'll see a little bit more of the development on storylines. But so the very anticipated rookie battle, well, not rookie with Chance, but it's the Chance Ellison versus Paul Aoyama match. And we should probably talk about that in a little bit more detail in a second here, because it's a pretty big match. But that match the winner of that match will play the winner of JTE. JT or Dave Del Rio or Liz Shannon Miller, Lightning Liz, who they're going to go up against one another. Lightning Liz and Dave Del Rio will play. The winner of that will play JTE, and then the winner of that will play the winner of Chance versus Aoyama at Collision for the number one contender shot. So any one of those contenders would be very interesting, because if you break it down, let's start with the legend in JTE.
Yeah,
JT hasn't had a title shot since he got knocked out against Mark Riley in season 3. And what a comeback it would be if he can get himself there. And now how he's doing with Evil Geniuses. You heard the pop he got when he came back for Free For All, and he's a heel. And people love JT, and he's a legend. He's a former champion, but he's never had the main strap. And he wants it. He got so close, and then who took him out in the tournament after that big run? Sam Levine. So JT would be a big story. If you look at the same side of that, you look at either Dave Del Rio, who not knocked out, but beat Whitney Seibold in his match. That would be to see if Dave can do it, if he can win this whole thing and get to Dan Moreau. It's like you got another rookie here who's going to be 3-0, and the same it can be said for Lightning Liz, who was recommended by Ethan Irwin. And so she's got to have a lot to live up to, and then she can come in here and do that. You got another rookie. And then you get Chance and Aoyama. These two, battling in the fan leagues, and Chance has a very one-sided version of what he believes happened in that match. And Paul, and Paul Aoyama has a very one-sided. These two have been talking smack about each other forever. Who's the better fan player? Paul Aoyama's told me time and time again, you should have brought me in first before Chance. And it's just, and the other side of that is when those two play, you're going to see Kaiser versus Ken and Grace, which is very exciting.
Oof.
Yes.
Yeah, we know that Ken and Kaiser have kind of like a bromance thing, or at least a respect kind of thing going on. So
I think that's going to go out the window.
yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. My dream match for Dan Moreau, though, I mean, JT would be up there, but right now, I would love to see Dan Moreau versus Paul Aoyama for the championship. I would just love to see how Dan, because here's the thing. Last time Dan was in the ring with somebody with the cockiness and confidence of Paul Aoyama, it was Andrew Guy. And we saw how that played out. Now, I know, is that more of an outlier? Is that more of a fluke than it is a stat? Perhaps. But I think sometimes Dan is so nice. He's such a great guy. He's such a sport that I think that sometimes that personality really clashes with him, Kristian. And I think that would be an interesting matchup for Dan.
A lot of the points I agree with. And to kind of piggyback off of one of those points, Andrew Guy is easily, if not the best, one of the best performers we've ever had, and I would probably rank him as the best performers that we've ever had. To his own, he would admit he's not at a Dan Moreau level, even though he beat Dan, but he's not at a Dan Moreau level when it comes to trivia, and he's not. I don't think he would consider himself an elite trivia guy. He's a very knowledgeable guy. He and no pun intended. He's a very good knowledge base. But Paul Aoyama, I believe, at 22 years old or whatever he is, 21, is an elite player. I think he's got knowledge, and I think he showed that when he was pumping out classics like
that's what I'm saying.
Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's legit. But the thing is, Dan Moreau, when he walked up against Guy, this is kind of going into your character thing, that was a different league. Dan walked away from a league that didn't have team action in it when he left. Didn't have these big characters and corruption. So when he walked into it, he was kind of caught like a deer in headlights. That's not Dan Moreau today. Dan Moreau, if you've seen in the storylines, and he gets it. He understands it. He's embraced it. So I don't think a character like Paul Aoyama is going to shake him.
Well, I mean, we would have to see. Obviously, that's if Paul Aoyama can get through Chance Ellison. Like you said, it's the battle of the young bucks. To me, I likened it on the show to Mickey Gall versus Sage Northcutt from the UFC. The two guys who really have the package and have all the ability. Who's gonna prevail? Who's gonna rise up the ranks for the next one? So we have Manager Bowl. We have the number one contenders match. We have the team match in the main event. What's the other match that's going to be on Collision?
The four matches. The first one is the Manager Bowl, then Kalinowski Smets, and then the number one contender shot, and then the team championship.
Okay, Kalinowski and Smets. That's right. So I mean, those are four solid matches that could really main event any live event. And now you're going to see them all in one event at the Collision. Like I said, make sure you go by that stream right now. You want to be in front of the television. It's going to be appointment viewing when that goes down at the end of June. Kristian, now I want to get an update for all the fans here. You kind of floated this on Collider Live last week, I believe, about the San Diego live event was in flux slightly. Are we on more stable ground now for the live event?
It's building, and I think that Roxy and Ben and a few other people have kind of, made great points that the Comic-Con schedule has not come out yet. I think people wait a little bit. And it's similar to look at the LA event. Every LA event we have, it's sold out, but it's like pulling teeth, to make it happen. And I kid, but it just like you said, it's like Houston took a little bit too. It just. They know tickets are going to be available, so they go, okay, I'm going to get them on the day before or the night of. And we wind up, Houston was at 350 or whatever it was, and New York was sold out, and Chicago was sold out. Because Chicago started out quick. Chicago started out at like 550 or 600 in like 2 days, and then slowed down. And then once we got towards the actual event, and then there was this burst, and we had 1,000 people there. So I think San Diego will be the same. I'd be happy if the place seats 500. If we can pack in 350 people to that place, only because my main thing, and this is actually not even on the business side of it. It's more on the fan side. As a fan, you're going to want to see either Cushing versus Smets 1 Kalinowski versus Cushing 2 in the Inner Geekdom division. I mean, that's one of the best main events we've ever had, and it's not even booked yet.
Absolutely. That's what I said. These live events coming up. And now they're also, there's no announced matches for New York yet. When can we expect that?
The New York matches, well, I mean, the tournaments are going to be announced pretty soon as far as what's happening, how it's going to happen, and potentially who's going to be in it. I have two different ideas for what the main event can be for the New York event, and which both of them, I think the fans will be very happy.
Okay. Now, now we've been to Houston, we've been to Chicago, we've been to Los Angeles, we've been to New York. We're going back to New York. What other is New York in August? Is that going to be maybe the last live event for the year, or do you have something else planned?
Yes, we will, and I haven't made any announcements about this on Facebook. I mean, I've kind of soft teased it a couple times of where we're looking to trying to go, and I can just say now that we're getting closer and closer. And it looks pretty good that we're going to be in Arizona in September.
Wow, there we go.
At one of the improvs, actually.
Okay. Cool.
And it'll be good because the fans will actually be excited because they right before the event starts, not during, there'll be food served and a whole bunch of a bunch of things. So Alex will be excited because he won't have to buy any chips.
No chips for Alex.
Well,
I know that he's begging with glory. Yeah. Wow, that's great. Exactly. I mean, there's been such a contingent fan base there in Arizona. I know they've been calling for it for a very long time. I know a lot of the players even reside in that sort of area. So that's going to be huge if we see that. And what we're thinking, maybe November or something around there.
September?
No, that's September.
Oh,
that's
September. You said September. Okay.
That's September. Yeah, so what? And this is the thing, though. Also, is that if Chance happens to win the championship. Which is a long, it's a long shot. But if he happens to win the championship, tall order. If he happens to do it, then he'll probably have his first title defense in Arizona.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So that's if he does it. If not, there's possibly having Crimson Fury. But I think the undercard that I want to have is Late to the Party versus Wildberries.
Oh, absolutely. You got to be on board for that one.
Yeah, and then so October we're going to Orlando,
and that's for sure.
It's about 75% sure right now.
Wow,
there you go.
Well,
we're looking at Orlando and
Arizona.
Phoenix. Is it in Arizona, Phoenix?
Yeah, and there's a possibility of doing a November event that wouldn't be necessarily. It would probably be. It could be two exhibitions, but we also might make it a throwdown. We're leaning towards a throwdown in November.
Okay, there you go.
Wow,
another throwdown, second throwdown.
I think a lot of us have been waiting for another throwdown because the first one was so successful. And I'm excited. The live events, guys. If y'all haven't been to a live event, you're sorely missing out on a hell of an experience. I'm not kidding, Kristian. We were Booker T and I were at a meeting with potential sponsors of our radio show yesterday, and he brought up the Schmoedown, and he talked about it for like 15 minutes, and he was just like, "Y'all have to, he was like, you have to understand. I didn't expect any of this. There's two guys standing in a ring, but they're not hitting each other, and the crowd's going crazy."
That's the magic trick. Magic trick is if you can get. Because I think that's what the live events have done. Because I think Brad, you and I have talked about it, and Booker's been a fan for a little bit, and he's been around. He's been a supporter of it, and he's done his breakdowns. But I don't think he really got it, like fully got it, until we were there.
Yeah, 100%. I think when he saw it, he understood it.
Yes.
And so many people. I think that's so many people. I mean, even the whole staff, a lot of the wrestlers were in the building. Everyone's like, "Man, this is awesome!" Like, I watched a couple clips, but I didn't understand it. And then you see it in person, it gives you a whole new view of it. So New York is close to. We're going to sell out New York, and that's the next one in San Diego, of course. But yeah, Frank.
This like fervor that comes after going to a live event, I see that with just a lot of casual fans that come to the live event for the first time, and then then the live event happens, they go to it, and afterwards I see their activity in the groups or in the comment sections and tweets and just ramp up because they're so invigorated by what the live event's able to do, and which I think is probably the greatest form that the Schmoedown can operate in, and people are just eating it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that was it's something that Brad said too, is that the wrestling fan, I feel right now, I still don't think, I think 4% of the wrestling audience has found us, maybe. And I think that the main trick with the wrestling audience is getting the wrestling audience to the live events, because as Brad just said, when you're a wrestling fan and you go to an event like that, you get it.
Yeah.
You understand. You the same things you love about wrestling than you love there. But that's why I don't understand the simple-minded thought process behind people, not people who don't like it. That's everybody's right to either say I'm a trivia person and not the story person. You guys do that side of it, and I'll be looking more forward to the Morel Irwin type of matches, and that's fine. It's the people who say like, "Oh, you lean too much into the story stuff. Just give me the trivia." You don't get it. You can't grow by just doing that with this league, because then you turn into Trivia HQ. You're just you're game for a little bit, and then you go away.
Yeah,
and
that's very true.
That's not why hardcore fans are born from the Schmoedown. The hardcore fans are born because they are following people. They are following characters. Now, again, the same type of people who just love the game can also fall in love with characters the same way that they fall in love with characters on movie fights or these other things, or even watching Movie Talk or Collider Live. But it's people who don't understand the what story building does, that I just shake my head and I said, you guys would never work for this company ever.
Well, right. I mean, for me, and I said this, I said, even if you look at it like in a legitimate sport, take the wrestling angle out of it. If you look at UFC, the top 10 UFC pay-per-views, there are 3 people who are in common with those. It's Brock Lesnar, it's Ronda Rousey, it's Conor McGregor. They're characters, they're personalities that get you invested into the fight. They're not the 3 best technical fighters in the world. They probably, they're not the greatest at trivia, right? They might not be, but they're all the great characters, and they draw you in. And that's how you grow a sport. That's how you grow a league like the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. And I'm here for the characters. I'm here for everything. But Kristian Harloff, we appreciate I know you have to attend to other responsibilities, but we appreciate you for calling into the rundown and giving us a full overview of what's going on in the league right now.
Thank you for trying to make me seem important as I walk through my living room with socks on with a sweet potato in my hand.
Oh,
that is the commish right there, or the chairman, Kristian Harloff. Kristian, we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. Have a great show, and I look forward to listening.
And now joining us on the show, he is one half of the brand new team champions, the Odd Couple, the In-Snyder, Jeff Snyder. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here, man.
Man, we're so excited to have you on. I mean, what a hell of a victory that you pulled off here against you and your teammate against the Shire Wolves. When we want to break it down, but first I got to ask you: we were in Houston. Obviously, this is where I am currently. But we were in Houston with the Movie Trivia Schmoedown live. Booker T was in the building. How do you feel when Booker T says Snyder?
I love it. I think Booker T is great for the game. He's just a great showman himself. And he feels, he's just part of the community. So anytime he says my name, I'm honored.
Yeah. Well, I always love how he pronounces your name. But let's talk about it, man. I mean, a few weeks ago on this show, before the Chicago live event, I didn't pick y'all to win. I thought Who's the Boss was going to take it. But I said, look, if the Odd Couple pulls this off, and they go and they face the Shire Wolves and they defeat the Shire Wolves, Jeff Snyder is the greatest team player of all time. I said that. I stand behind that. And today, you are the greatest single-team player, I think, in the Movie Trivia Schmoedown history. And I think you've cemented your place on the Mount Rushmore, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that. I do think that I am worthy of Mount Rushmore conversation, at least.
Right. Sure.
But I obviously couldn't do this without JTE, without Andraco. It really is a team effort in both cases, the Patriots, the Odd Couple. So I just consider myself a lucky guy. And lucky to have won this match. I mean, I think, 1 or 2 people said it in comments section that I've seen, but it wasn't my best match. I don't think I stunk, but I wasn't great. But we did enough to win, and that's sort of, the Patriots motto, and I think I brought that over to the Odd Couple.
You know, there was also a couple moments where you were visibly frustrated, it looked like. I mean, frustrated with some of the answers.
There's a lot of moments.
Yeah, there's a lot of eye rolls from Jeff Snyder.
I was mad at myself. Really, it was the speed question that threw me off my game because I was so pissed that I messed up the year of speed. Like, obviously, this is the 25th anniversary. I have a piece coming out next week, timed to it. So I just kind of, like, I said 95 at first, and Draco was like, yeah, I think you're right. And then I stopped, and I was like, wait, I think it's 94. And he was like, just go with your first instinct. And we said 95, and it was like, and I just like, oh my God, if that cost me this match, I am not going to be able to live with myself. As far as the other things, like, obviously I didn't have a good start. Missing Crouching Tiger, I don't think of that as like an action adventure film. I think of it as like a foreign language film. So that didn't come to mind. I met like Jamie Lee Curtis. That was like a trick question. Nobody knew the Ali Sheedy short circuit one. So I think I got 5 points and Andreyko got, or no, did I get
7? You got 5, he got 7.
5 and 7?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the third, all right, Julia Roberts. So I've seen this speculation too. That people like that Andreyko was the one who said 3 points. I was the one who said 3 points. Andreyko wanted 2. I was like, let's go 3. It's Julia Roberts. I know Julia Roberts inside and out, and they just happened to ask about the worst Julia Roberts movie there is.
Right. Yeah, there was a couple ones there, but even, I mean, not only frustration with yourself, it looked like, I don't know, were you and Mark not fully in sync? In the first couple rounds of that? I mean, even when you got to the speed round, there was a Felicity Jones question that you were like, oh, come on, man.
Right. Well, I mean, obviously, Andreyko was the better player in this match. Like, he carried me, but he was definitely the better player. But he also made some mistakes, and I think that's like, those are like championship experience mistakes. Like, if you don't have Felicity Jones on the tip of your tongue, do not buzz in. So that was frustrating because I had that. Like anything with casting, like I'm pretty quick on the draw there. So I thought I had that, and I thought he whiffed. Letters from Iwo Jima, like that's a JTE mistake. Like, so it was just mistakes like that I was really concerned was going to cost us in the match, and particularly against the Shirewolves. You can't afford to make mistakes against them. Plus the fact that, in the last round when we divvied up the questions, I wound up with musicals. That's just how it worked out. Like, you get to say who's going to answer this, right, based on the category, but that just means the second person is stuck with whatever the category is. And I was like, oh man, if only I had switched.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I understand that, but y'all stuck through it, and to me, when we had Kristian Harloff on just a second ago, he actually kind of echoed your sentiments about it was a defensive game. It was more of a I got to stay around in it just enough, but I can't let him get too many big shots off.
And that's totally accurate, which is why mixed bag we went with multiple choice a couple of times until the speed question, and it's like to have gone through 5 questions of mixed bag and then stumble on that last one. That's when I was kicking myself. And mixed bag, like, what did you guys think of that? Like, what that
holy hell! I always think that's
first
a
2 questions were
right. Spinning away from trauma though was like, I didn't know if we should or shouldn't. It was kind of a gamble. Obviously, it worked out.
A lot of the times, I think that mixed bag can be a death nail. Especially in a close match like what we were expecting. It's like, man, if you whiff it, if in this category, there's almost no chance you can come back, especially with a team like the Shirewolves. But with the performance that you did, it was a ballsy. I mean, it wasn't your choice, but it was a ballsy category that y'all were able to find your way through.
The first 2 questions were tough, and Andreyko obviously really stepped up with like the John Wayne of it all. Where I kind of stepped up was in the Shirewolves round 2, because they got some Ron Howard stuff, and I think I know Ron Howard really well. So Ben Wishock, Christine Baranski, I was able to get those steals, and that's really what kind of left the door open.
Yeah, absolutely. How much before the match? I mean, y'all talked a lot about Roxy Stryer keeping you on an even keel, but between yourself, Roxy, and Mark Andreyko, there's only been one team champion at that time walking into it, and somebody who's part of the greatest team in movie trivia Schmoedown history today. How much, I almost said strategery, like the former president of the United States. How much strategy did you talk about with Mark Andreyko and Roxy Stryer? I mean, did you say, hey, look, I've been here before. This is how we should do this?
I mean, not much. I think, like Andreyko, when I said I want 3 points for Julia Roberts, he deferred to me because I felt like we were always trailing. Like, we kept coming back to tie up at the end of each round, and I wanted to be aggressive. So that was the strategy, and it cost us a point in round 3 because I think they only bet 2 points, right?
Correct.
Right. So, but you know what? You live and die with that strategy. We were aggressive in the speed round, and I think we got 3 questions right, and they got 1 right. But because we got 1 wrong too, like we only got so many points on them. But Andreyko and I definitely spoke like we want to be aggressive in the speed round.
Yeah, and we've seen how great someone like Clark Wolf can definitely be in the speed round. But walk me through also going into that round number 5, because to me, when you miss your 2 and your 3, going on in your head, I mean, it had to be, oh, this is a wrap.
I thought we were toast. I mean, the a-boo thing, like,
yeah.
At first, I thought that he had kind of said ab-poo, A-B-P-U, and so when Clark said, wait a second, I snapped at her because I thought she was sort of saying, like, that like the B snuck in there. But the point is that the P should not have been in there. And Draco was a gentleman to have said, that he didn't say the right thing. And I lived with it. I mean, I didn't argue. Obviously, he copped to it.
I mean, you guys for a lot of this match didn't seem like a lot of things go your way, and you always were battling back.
Right,
and
we were resilient.
You're very resilient. And I mean, you guys weren't on your, like you said, you weren't playing your best game, and neither were the Shirelles. Neither was Rachel. I mean, Clark played a pretty strong game. She had 7 points in that first round as well. And so I think this match is very interesting that both teams didn't really play their A+ game on that day, and that the best is still yet to come from you and Rachel.
Listen, I think that the rematch that they automatically get, I think that's going to be fire, because I know I'm going to come to play a little bit better, and I think that they are as well. And if you think you guys saw something today, I guarantee it's going to be even better at the collision. Because I think we were both on tilt a little. I was nervous. I had a lot on the line. They were nervous. Clearly, I think I think it's kind of, I don't want to say easy, but I think maybe it's just me. I can get into Clark's head a little, and I think that she was a little rattled, and that's why she whiffed on the Jennifer Garner question, which was a big one.
Yeah, no, that was a huge miss, and I think that's your character. Talk about, I mean, how much of the mental game are you thinking about that at all, or is this just Jeff Snyder when the cameras are on and you just happen to have that effect to where you can kind of throw people off their game?
I don't know whether it's the cameras are on or off, or just my dynamic or our history over the years. But I think for anyone in a title match, tensions are high. People are nerve-wracked. It's a nerve-wracking position to be in. And when you're the champions, like they were, all the pressure's on you. All the pressure's on you. So, I can't wait for the rematch to show it. When did you start becoming reinvigorated in the Schmoedown? Because you could tell after the loss to Above the Line, I think you were, and Kristian even alluded to it a second ago, you were a little burnt out. If at least that's how it came across, and you go back to, the was bad. I mean, that was embarrassing and not indicative of the level that I, hold myself to, the standard. And people were really down on me after that match. And it was like, wait a second, like I just had a bad game. Like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, they have bad games too.
All the time.
Right. And on that day, it's just like sometimes you just know it's not your day and you don't even put up a fight. And you're just like, listen, I got to take the hit on this one, take it on the chin. But I was reinvigorated by just being paired with Andreyko, knowing how hungry he was for a belt, knowing, I wanted to help win him one. That's kind of what drove me. I want to win, man. And I think I am a winner. I think I proved that today.
Frank?
I'm not the best, but I'm a winner.
I'm curious about what was your approach to this title match as opposed to your first title match with the Patriots, and do you see anything? Is there something similar between how you guys approach matches between your both teams you've been on, or is it just completely different styles?
I don't think that the approach was different. The opponent was a little bit different. I think you had to, like, we definitely wanted to play defensive. I didn't, like, we put categories on even that, like, weren't necessarily mine or his strengths, but we knew Clark and Rachel weren't particularly great at, I thought. We just knew it was going to be a battle. JT and I think, are maybe a little bit more on the same page in terms of what we can each do. But the strategy is always pretty much the same in terms of prep.
And now coming up, though, after this, we've talked about your upcoming rematch against the Shire Wolves. It's going to be the main event of Collider Collision that goes down later this month, and you can get the live stream available now at triviasd.com. But I want to talk about your singles career here, because not only you're a champion, you have an interesting singles run, and you could either get Ben Bateman coming up or even Janine or Kalinowski coming up. Do you have any preference of who your next singles match is going to be?
Honestly, I don't have a preference because I think I can beat all of them. Bateman, I think, would be the toughest matchup.
Yeah.
Kalinowski and Machine are no slouches, right? But I don't think I view any of them as really being in the top tier of competitors in the league, like Morel or Irwin or McWeeny even, or Roca. McWeeny's just scary. I know he doesn't have maybe the record that the rest of us, but I get like freaked out going up against him because I have known him, for so long and know what he's capable of. He's just a movie watching freak.
I mean, but obviously you have aspirations to be the singles champion.
Yeah, man. I want a shot at Morel. I don't think I've ever squared off against him in this league. And while I certainly respect him and his reputation as the quote-unquote GOAT, I don't know. I think on the right day he can be beaten. You can take him down. And if the questions bounce my way, I could get him. But I want that shot because the last time I had a number one contender shot, it was against Bibiani. God, he just crushed me. Let me ask you this. What is the word out there about the 5-point questions? Because I admit our 5-point question was pretty easy. In fact, I would have asked for the name of the milk bar, which I knew, which is Korova with a K. I was just surprised at how easy milk bar, like that felt a 2 or 3 point question to me. Sam Levine, by the way, came over afterwards, and he's like, I even knew the type of milk that they were drinking. I was like, piss off, Sam.
You're not playing anymore, Sam Levine. Get away from me.
That El Dorado question, and this is what I whispered to Rachel, when I shook her hand afterwards. That's a tough question. That
was tough.
That's one of those animation movies that just you don't even think about that one.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always going to be those talks about, were they equal questions? Was this, you have to see the movie? Could this one you just see a movie poster? But I think that's the nature of the game, and that's where the little bit of luck comes into it. And I don't think that there should be any debate about that any longer because it's just the way it works. They could have had that same 5-pointer that y'all had if they selected that category. I mean,
exactly. That is the luck of the draw. And listen, I thought Ron Howard was a way, way easier category than mixed bag. I thought the mixed bag questions were actually pretty tough this time around. And Ron Howard, for some reason, I think I knew all of those. So, they lucked out in round 2, and I guess we just got lucky in round 5. And the way that the points are valued and the rounds are valued, we came out on top this time.
Now, you've had some emotional moments in the movie Trivia Schmoedown where you show genuine emotion, either a victory or what have you. This time was no different. You and Mark Andreyko, you could see, there was a point after you won the belt where you actually were just looking up at the ceiling after y'all won, sitting there at the desk. And then, of course, Mark Andreyko had a moment in the post-match interview. Talk to me about, because some people think there's just a game, but obviously you invest a lot into this. Talk to me about the real emotions you were feeling after your victory.
Sure, man. Listen, when I lose, the day is ruined. The weekend is ruined. It's all I can think about nonstop. I'm just replaying every mistake over in my head. So winning is a huge relief in that sense. I think I was just thinking about taking in the moment, not trying to yell and scream and act like an ass, which I certainly, done and did after beating Who's the Boss in Chicago. But that's like a live audience, the energy is totally different. So I think it was a lot more mellow. People were kind of shocked and stunned in the studio. and everybody was kind of quiet to like see how Clark and Rachel were going to respond to things, because they can be a little emotional as well, maybe in a different way. And yeah, I was just like looking up and thanking Mom for looking out over me, and thanking God Andreyko, came to play in round 1.
Is the Shirewolves the best team you've played? Or who would you say is up there for you?
I mean, I've gone up against Above the Line a couple of times, obviously, and they were, listen, they're monsters, but they were like, that wasn't like an organic team. They were like designed as the Patriots killer, and we did, get them once. The Iron Man match obviously was not a format that sort of favored us,
right?
So I wonder what it would have been like in a traditional sort of rubber match there. But so I would probably say Above the Line. Top 10 is great, like Roca and Nost, even though, Nost maybe isn't a top tier level competitor. Like him and Roca, like JT and I, or like now Andreyko and I, they just work well together. But listen, you got to hand it to the Shirewolves. Like, they came to play and gave us the fight of our lives.
Well, and I think that, Above the Line is what it was. And the Iron Man match, like you said, wasn't your format. But Shirewolves, without a doubt, I mean, they've actually been the only other team I've really seen a lot of the fans talk about being at a Patriot level. Like, hey, man, are the Shirewolves going to be the greatest team of all time? And I thought if they had a couple more defenses that it was going to be a shoe-in. But you've locked it down now as the greatest player. Do you feel like you're the greatest team player of all time, right? Like, it's not just me saying that, right?
I think, I think I'm a great teammate. Again, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm the best trivia player, but I think that I know how to win. Like, there are just, like, some guys – Tom Brady is a winner, and even Peyton Manning, until he won the big one late in his career, he was always kind of seen, even though some people consider him the best quarterback and a better quarterback than Brady, he was always kind of seen as a loser until he's sort of bucked that name. So, I think I just established myself as a formidable competitor. If you look, actually, Frank will back this up. If you look at like my overall record of all the people who have played over like 20 matches or 25 matches in this league, I think I'm the best winning person overall. I mean, obviously thanks to the Patriots and our incredible record to start, but with singles and teams combined, like, I don't think anybody has a better winning percentage than I do.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but I wouldn't argue against that. I think there's only a few that have. I mean, I think like even Sam's is up there as well when he went on that run with Above the Line. But that's a good point, because not a lot of some players are really good in singles and then it doesn't really happen for them in teams, or they're really good in teams and it doesn't really happen for them in singles. Like McWeeny, on that run with Above the Line. And they won the title off of you and the Patriots, but in singles he couldn't quite do it. So for players like yourself, or Roca and Rachel and others who can do 2 or even 3 leagues, I think that's a real testament to just how good the player is, and certainly you've demonstrated that with 2 teams now.
I mean, I know my stuff. I've been living and breathing this stuff since I was 12 years old, and I'm an industry trade reporter. Like, I know the last 2 decades of movies or whatever. It's the 70s and 80s where I stumble. I definitely have to brush up on the classics and plan to do so. Thankfully, Andreyko is a little bit older than I am, and his knowledge goes back a little bit further. So, I'm lucky in that regard. If I was playing with somebody a lot younger, just like obviously their knowledge bank wouldn't be as broad as Mark's is. So I got to hand it to him as well, because I wouldn't be doing this interview if it wasn't for him.
Now, if you both get through the Shirewolves in the rematch at the Collision, who would you like to go up against next in teams? Because there's somebody's number who you've always had. You've always had John Roca's number for some reason.
He knows it, believe me.
Oh, I know he does. Yeah. Founding Fathers maybe is a potential team that could be in championship contention very soon. Obviously, Dan Moreau's got that number 1 contender match whenever he wants it, or championship match whenever he wants it. But who would you like to face if you get through the Shirewolves in the rematch?
Who else is there besides Founding Fathers? I don't even pay attention.
I mean, Corruption is still, knocking on the door trying to get to that title shot. Look at there you go. I mean, hey. You could possibly see Evil Geniuses. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting, going up against JTE in a teams match, because I know I lost to him 1-on-1, but he obviously was out when I was supposed to play him and Harris. So, it'd be great to see them in the ring. As far as Founding Fathers go, I'll put it this way. I'm happy to play them, but I hope that they earn it. I hope that Dan Morel does not use his free cash-in on teams, because Roca wants to earn it too. I don't think Roca really wants him to cash in either. You want to say
I know, but it would be a great moment though after the main event of Collider Collision. You know, they just walk right out and say, "No, we're doing this this moment."
Like bring it on. Like I don't anticipate necessarily holding the belt with Mark as long as I did with JTE. That'd be a great thing, but it may be asking a little much given the strength of the team league these days. So listen, if they cash it in then and there, bring it on, boys. Bring it on.
All right.
I got one thing actually that I remembered I want to ask you about was Roxy, you know, because Mark talked about it and you talked about it briefly in your post-match interview. What's it like to have the type of manager that Roxy is compared to your days with Finstock? I mean, what has Roxy done for you that you didn't think would happen?
First of all.
That's true.
She classes up all of our team photos. Roxy, she's a great cheerleader to have on the sidelines. Like, I think that her approach is a little bit different than Tom's, but she keeps us calm. Like Andrejko and I are both emotional guys, prone to outbursts, prone to getting discouraged, as you kind of saw in even in this match. But she kept me focused. She helped me keep my eyes on the prize. And like, even though we missed our 2 and 3-pointer, and I thought for sure we were cooked, she's like, "Listen, guys, you missed them, and you know what? They could too." And it just so happens that they missed the 3 and the 5. Yeah.
Absolutely. She's been a great addition to the team, obviously a manager of the year. We've talked about Jeff Snyder in contention for player of the year this year so far. We'll have to see what happens at the Schmoedown Awards. You never know. Maybe you could be double belted. Vote for him. Why wouldn't it? It's a face that everyone can love.
Vote for respective judges.
Well, we appreciate you for taking the time.
Of course. Take care. Bye.
All right, Jeff. That is the Insnider, Jeff Snyder, one half of the brand new team champions. We'll be back with more rundown after this. Actually, he's gone now, so we can continue talking right now. Yeah. Because I think that what we saw, was it the greatest technical match in movie trivia Schmoedown history? No, it wasn't. Was it the best match that the Shirewolves played in their run? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. But that does not take anything away from the great game that the Odd Couple played, because when you miss, you know, the letters from Iwo Jima to Iwo Jima question, when you miss speed, something that you knew, and then when you miss a boo and a poo, those are normally, any one of those should have been a death nail. Any one of them.
100%. And the fact that you just rattled off 3 of those things and they were still able to come out and win this match against the Shirewolves. I've been thinking a lot about this match, whether, you know, who won it, who lost it, the breaks that went, you know, the Shirewolves wave, they didn't take advantage. Like you said, with those 3 mishaps that Odd Couple had, they were able to still win the game despite those, missing their 2 and a 3 in the final round. I mean, there's a lot that went wrong for the Odd Couple, and yet they were able to win. And, Snyder wasn't playing his best game. But then I look at the Shirewolves, and they played like 20% below their lifetime average as a team. I mean, that's a huge drop-off that I don't, if they play, if they play their game that day, they come out the winners of that match and are still champs. And so when I look at the rematch now and I go, the Shirewolves didn't play their potential and they lost, and it was still a close, tough match, but the Odd Couple didn't play to their maximum ability either in that match, and they were still able to win. So I'm like, who do I give the edge to in this match?
The edge goes to the winner.
I mean, I think so, because they but it's just, I think I agree with you 1 minute and then I disagree the next, and that's how conflicted I am about these 2 teams. And I didn't think I would be at this point, because I always thought, and a lot of people did, who's the boss and the Shirewolves, this is going to be the next great rivalry. And obviously Andrejko and Snyder put a wrench in those plans, and now they're sitting as the champs, and now here I am going back, who could take it? And I mean, I'll be one day, I'll be one way one day and I'll be the other the next. And that's what's actually really great about this matchup.
Here's the thing, though. In this match, it's 2 heavyweight contenders duking it out in the ring. But guess what? They both have knockout power. They both have a record full of knockouts, right? But they don't touch each other for like the first 8 rounds. It's a lot of circling.
Right.
It's a lot of tap, tap, tap. It's a lot of tap, tap, tap. And then finally, when you get in those championship rounds, like we saw in this match, and when you get in the 5th round, if it's boxing, when you get in 10, 11, 12, they start turning it on. They're like, look, man, it's going to go to the judges. We're going to have to win this on points. No one's going to knock each other out, but we're going to have to win this on points. Let me just see what I can do here in this final round. And that's what happened. That's why the edge you got to give it to the people who won. You got to give it to the Odd Couple. They are the new champions.
And the other thing I go back to is Andreyko. He's played 2 really great games back to back now. And we all know he's been a streaky player. So can he do it for a 3rd match in a row? Because, I mean, you listen to Jeff just now, in that second round, he really helped him out. He had a 7-point round after a perfect round in Chicago. So he didn't have a drop-off there. How long can he keep this run going? Because when you look back at his singles run last year, when he made it all the way to that title match against Bibiani, had a great run up there. He got lucky in that number one contenders match against Janine and Stacey Howard, right? Kind of lucked his way in there, but played a really good match against Bibiani, but lost it. So, as much as I go, well, Snyder didn't play his best game and they still won. I'm like, well, can Andreyko keep up this pace?
Right.
So you can understand how I'm going back and forth, and that's just my logic.
I get it, but look, we have a big event going into the collision, the Schmoedown collision this year. It's going to be a huge event. It's going to be a huge championship match, and I cannot wait to see that made. Are you going to be there, Frank Janisch?
I more than likely am going to be there. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to try to make my way out.
If not, I'm definitely watching the live stream. If not,
I'll watch it regardless. But the boat would love to be there. Well, you heard from Kristian Harloff. You heard from Jeff Snyder. Congratulations to the Odd Couple. I truly mean it. Didn't just say it because he's on the show. I said it weeks ago. If Jeff Snyder was able to pull out a victory against the Shire Wolves, he's the greatest team player of all time. And that's just stats, man. That's all that is. That's championships and accomplishments. Can say that. The first man to bring 2 different teams to championship gold. Shout out to Jeff Snyder and the Odd Couple. But that rematch, Frank Janisch, is going to be nuts, and I cannot wait for it. Hey, we had some other stuff for you planned. We're going to talk about this great article that Frank Janisch wrote, The Faction Wars, over there on TriviaSD.com. We're going to break that down. We also wanted to take some of your viewer mail and listener mail. Unfortunately, by the unexpected entry from Kristian Harloff and an extended interview with Jeff Snyder, we're going to have to move those segments to next week. So we're going to talk about Faction Wars because there's a lot of fun stuff that Frank and I were discussing before we rolled sound here today about maybe series, like a World Series of Movie Trivia Schmoedown, the Faction Wars. There's a lot of great stuff, and Frank's full of it, man. He's full of it. But we're going to have to talk about those next week here on the Schmoedown Rundown. Frank, why don't you let people know what you got going on, where they can find you, follow you, and all that?
And just before I do that, I want to just say, everyone knows that I'm like a huge Shire Wolves fan, and even I, wasn't that upset that they lost because I'm more a fan of seeing history made. That's what we saw with Odd Couple and Jeff Snyder and Mark Andreyko, so it was great. But you were talking about, that rematch is going to be something else. And in the lead up to that, if you want to hear my thoughts on it, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. And once in a while, hopefully most of the time on the PJ Campbell Show, whenever PJ uploads that sometime during the week, we have fun on that show. We talk movies and stuff, so check it out.
Yeah. I got to come back on the show because we had a talk in Texas about Christmas movies, and there is a winner for the greatest Christmas movie of all time. I'm going to go to Chris Clark, though. Chris Clark, let the people know where they can find you and follow you.
You can find me, as always, on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisClark8788. Those numbers mean nothing. And be sure to check out the Schmoedown Classic feed coming very soon, next week, actually. Ooh. Season 3 will be released.
That's gonna be some good binge-worthy material, and you can find The Boat on all social media at Brad Gilmore. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever else you can find me. Check out my podcast, The Brad Gilmore Show. Also, Back to the Future, the podcast. Who, by the way, we have a special guest on Back to the Future, the podcast, dropping next week. That is the one and the only Booker T.
Oh, really?
Back to the Future, the podcast, yes. So you might want to check that one out. And also check out Booker T and I's show, The Hall of Fame, on ESPN. And you can get on your favorite podcast app every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We're preempted this week for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup, but we're going to be live on Tuesday, so check us out then. But for Frank Janisch and Chris Clark, my name is Brad Gilmore, The Boat, and we'll see you next week.
Do you know what I did earlier this week? I actually watched the buy-in match for Double or Nothing on YouTube. I was heavily entertained.